Archetype analysis fans, rejoice! From today's video, the Archetype analysis series is longer than every single Heroes on Might and Magic 5 series combined. Yeah, that's a lot of videos. I never thought that this day would come. Anyway, today we're taking a look at the Code Talker archetype used by Yusaku Fujiki slash Playmaker. And yeah, this is an archetype from where Yusaku's signature monster originates from, which is by definition a monster weaker than his ace monster, and yeah, used about as frequently as the ace monster, even though in Brains that's not the case, since Firewall Dragon was used very like sporadically. But whenever he did summon it, it sure as hell counted. So yeah. Let's take a look at this archetype, shall we? First up, we have the level 1 Microcoder. This is a level 1 with 300 attack and 0 defense, and if a Cyberse monster you control be used as link material for a Code Talker monster, this card in your hand can also be used as material. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard as a material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can add one Signet spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or if this card on the field was used, you can add one level 4 Cyberse monster instead. You can only use each effect once per turn. So yeah, basically you decide whether you use this thing from the field or from the hand as link material, as the searches are completely different in terms of from wherever you use this. You're probably gonna be using the hand effect on this one a bit more often, since they actually have a very nice continuous spell card, which we'll get into later. And this actually the main monster lineup very much works with the intended nature of said spell card. So yeah, it is summonable by 1-for-1 if you want to, like, use it on the field. You can start by activating a one-time passcode to summon a token, and then use the token and this thing in your hand to summon a Link 2. So yeah, you basically summon the instant Link 2 and perform the search without using your normal summon. So yeah, like I said, you mainly use this thing's hand effect for Link summons, because it searches out any Signet spell or trap card, meaning it can fetch even non-archetypal ones. So yeah, this is a 3-off staple no matter what the build. Also a 3-off staple is Code Generator. This is a level 3 with 1300 attack and 500 defense, and if you would use a Cyberse monster you control as link material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can use this card in your hand as material. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard as link material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can send one Cyberse monster with 1200 or less attack from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is used as material from the field, you can add that monster to your hand instead. You can only use each effect of Code Generator once per turn. So essentially, if you use this thing from the hand, you get a Foolish Burial, and if you use it from the field, you basically get a Search. The archetype only has 2 monsters, which are Cyberse with 1200 or less attack, one of which is Micro Talker, and the other one we'll get into soon. And yeah, you're most probably gonna be using this thing on the field as material for link play, since searching is a bit more valued in this deck rather than you know, setting up your graveyard, although setting up the graveyard is also appreciated. The fact is also very nice that you can add any Cyberse monster with 1200 or less attack, for some of which are actually the backup secretary, and backup, what was the other one called, the one with the red hair? Backup operator, yeah, that's right. And so yeah, those are also pretty nice targets. I'll get to that archetype soon. It's a tech archetype, so yeah, I'll get to it soon enough. But yeah, this is also a 3-off staple no matter what the build. This is basically a 3-off staple in Cyberse decks in general. So yeah. Next up, we have their level 4 Code Radiator. If a Cyberse monster you control will be used as a link material for a link summon of a Code Talker monster, this card can be, in the hand can also be used as material. If it is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0, also negate its effect, and if this card was used on the field as material, you can target 2 monsters instead. So yeah, no brainer, you use this thing as a field effect when being used as material, and yeah, this completely disabling 2 monsters upon like making plays is just awesome, fantastic, and yeah, this is a very nice card indeed. And yeah, due to it being a water monster and a Cyberse monster, it actually can see some plays in some Marinces decks because of its type and attribute, like I said. Also, it's on a level 4, so it opens up some Xyz plays as well. So yeah, this is an also nice card. 2 or 3 should be perfectly fine. And the last main deck monster is Code Exporter. This is a level 5 with 500 attack and 2300 defense. And if a Cyberse monster you control will be used as link material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, this card in your hand can also be used as material. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard as a link material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster, you can target one level 4 or lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard added to your hand. Or if this card on the field was used as material, you can special summon it instead but negate its effects. It's actually, this one is actually falls under the category whatever you prefer. It's fine if you don't use it on the field, and it's fine if you do use it on the field, because monsters you'll be reviving most of the time usually are members of this archetype. So yeah, if you use it from the if you use its hand effect, you're probably gonna be reviving something like Microcoder, so yeah, you can basically perform more back row searches. And if you use it on the field, you're probably gonna resummon a Code Generator or Code Radiator, which do get their effects negated, yes, but those don't apply when they hit the graveyard upon being used as material for Code Talkers. So yeah, run any number of these. I'm not quite sure with the ratios myself. Alright, now on to their link monsters. First up we have Talkback Lancer. This is a link 1 with 1200 attacks points down and requires a 1 level 2 or lower Cyberse monster. You can tribute one other Cyberse monster, then target one Code Talker monster in your graveyard with a different original name from that monster, special summon it to your zone and discard points to. You can only use this effect once per turn. It's a link 1 with very okay stats for a link 1. It tributes any Cyberse monster in order to revive a huge beatstick, that being your Code Talkers, any of them in fact, and not to mention that, yeah, it's overall a very nice card, a really fantastic card. There are actually several Code Talkers which can be used in conjunction with this, so yeah, this is a 3-off staple if I ever saw one. There are other monsters that are linked to, that being Code Talker. Requires 2 effect monsters, points up and down, 1300 attack, and gains 500 attack for each monster discard points to. Cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects while discard points to a monster. The protection's not gonna matter for much, but yeah, it can be... this thing can become an 1800 attack beatstick if you like prefer to have it on the field. The protection, again, is nice if you choose to keep it on the field, but most of the time you're just gonna keep using this in order to get their higher monsters. Or if you prefer to keep it, yeah, it's decent extra link material, so yeah. Next up we have their final link 2, that being Inverted Code Talker. This one points left and right, same stats as the regular Code Talker, but requires 2 Cyberse monsters this time. And if this card is link summoned, you can special summon one Cyberse monster from your hand to your zone, discard points to. And you can only use this effect of Inverted Code Talker once per turn. The only use of this thing is basically enabling the main deck lineup to use their field being used as material effects. So yeah, this is the most optimal way you can summon stuff like Code Exporter due to being a level 5, and some other cards such as Code Generator or Code Radiator. So yeah, its usage is due to the main deck only having like 4 monsters, 3 of them are most commonly used their field effects in order to facilitate monster presence and searching. So yeah, you're most likely gonna be using one, potentially 2 of these in your Code Talker deck. Alright, now getting to the archetype's poster boy and the one that started it all, that being Decode Talker. This is a Link 3 with 2300 attack, 2 plus effect monsters. It requires points up, bottom left, and bottom right. And this one gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, quick effect, you contribute one monster this card points to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So yeah, this is, to no one's surprise, the very first Link monster ever to exist, and for all intents and purposes, okay, it's the very first Link monster. Whatever did you expect? And in terms of protagonist signature monsters, it's fine. It's perfectly serviceable for what it does. It was basically played in every early Link deck due to it not being some better options or better archetypal options. So yeah, this is actually the protection effect is actually a not once per turn effect, so it's a very nice card. And if this thing points to 3 monsters, the most it gets is 3800 attack, which is fine, pretty decent actually. But yeah, one type of ruling that some people might have misplayed during the early Link era matches is attributing the monster discard points to. Like, if this thing points to an opponent's monster, then like the opponent activates the fact, oh, I can just tribute the opponent's monster, no biggie. No, you actually cannot do that unless the monster is targeted with stuff like Monarch Stormfort or the Soul Exchange. So yeah, or even Synchro. No, Synchro Material does not work in that regard. But yeah, you get the point. So yeah, you can only tribute your own monsters. So yeah, as for this thing's actual applicability, well, it still sees plays in Code Talker builds because of the spell card and because it's an iconic signature monster, and it can turn into a very massive beat stick. So yeah, it's a really nice card. Also, it also has a spell card which requires it to be on the field. So yeah, it's a good monster overall. Next up, we have the other Code Talker that appeared in the show, that being Encode Talker. Same stats as the original Decode Talker, Link 3, 2 plus Cybers monsters. It requires points up, down, and bottom right. And once per turn before damage calculation, if your monster or this card points to battles an opponent's monster with a higher attack than it, you can make that monster unable to be destroyed by that battle. Also, you take no battle damage for that battle. After that damage calculation, have this card or one monster discard points to gain attack equal to the attack of the battled opponent's monster until the end of this turn. Okay, so this thing, along with Code Talker we'll get to in a second, were and are still considered to be the worst Code Talkers for now. So yeah, this is a light monster for first of all, meaning okay, the battle boosting effect, the protection battle boosting effect this thing applies to a monster only works on a monster this card points to. So yeah, you can't even use it on this thing. But yeah, this was meant to like have your weak ass monster battle a certain monster, and then like you protect that monster from being destroyed, and then this thing gains the attack of the monster. This thing's battle, and then this one proceeds to go in for an overkill. And if you even apply Honest to that story, it can even get some even nicer damage output. But yeah, it's again before when the battle phase arrives, you're most likely gonna have a board filled up with monsters which can deal with anything no problem. Well, mostly anything no problem. So yeah, the existence of this effect is very pointless and it's very rarely pulled off, so yeah. Their next monster is Xcode Talker. This is another Code Talker with the same stats as the original Decode Talker. It requires 2+ Cybers monsters, points up, left and right. And when this card is link summoned, you can choose unused monsters, main monster zones, equal to the number of monsters currently in the extra monster zones. Those zones cannot be used while this monster is face up on the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. Monsters this card points to gain 500 attack, and also they cannot be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, this is the other Code Talker which is in the competition of Encode Talker for the prize of being the worst or the worst Code Talker ever. And yeah, he's green, he blocks monster zones. We can officially call him Ojama Code Talker. Yeah, this is yeah, you're only going to block off 2 monster zones at max, and unless you combine with Ground Collapse or Drama King, you're not getting anywhere in terms of practicality with this thing. The only relevant usage of this thing is the 500 attack point boost, which isn't that relevant, but yeah. Also, the monsters that this card points to cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle, which is a bit more relevant, but yeah. I actually prefer this Code Talker over Encode Talker due to its arrows being a bit more versatile in terms of extra link spamming, which is actually what this archetype mostly focuses around. So yeah. Their next monster is Power Code Talker. This one requires specifically 3 monsters, points left, right, and bottom left. And once per turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field, negate that target's effects until the end of this turn, and once per turn, if this card battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, quick effect, you contribute 1 monster this card points to. This card's attack becomes double its original attack during the damage calculation only. And now we have what's widely regarded as the best Code Talker, that being this card. Okay, the summoning condition on this one is a bit more specific, since it requires specifically 3 monsters. And well, that is not usually that much of a problem, since when you open up with Scapegoat, you basically can summon this and you have a spare monster to tribute when you use this thing's effect. So yeah, not to mention that this thing can negate an opponent's monster's effects until the end of the turn, which is a huge deal if you're looking to get over something with decent battle effects. So yeah, and how can we forget the beautiful doubling attack effect, which turns this thing into a 4600 attack beatstick, which is always an admirable effort. So yeah, this thing sees plays in Salamangreat decks due to it also being a fire monster. So yeah, this is a great card overall. Next up we have another Code Talker, which could objectively be considered better or a bit worse than Power Code, that being Transcode Talker. This one points up, down, and right, and requires 2+ effect monsters. And while this card is co-linked, and it and its co-linked monsters gain 500 attack. Also, your opponent cannot target any of them with card effects. You can target one Link 3 or lower Cyber's Link monster in your graveyard except Transcode Talker. Special summon it to your zone this card points to. You cannot special summon monsters for the turn you activate this card except Cyber's monsters. You can only use this effect of Transcode Talker once per turn. Yeah, this is basically a play extender, so yeah. It can be better than Power Code, since Power Code does not offer any effects related to extending plays. Well, this one does. This one is basically a 3-off staple. Well, not exactly a 2-off staple at most. 3 if you really feel like it, but anyway, yeah, I won't go much into it. But yeah, this is a staple basically in any Cyber's extra link spam, well, basically any Cyber spam deck which knows how to function, since this thing can revive very powerful Link 3 or lower Cyber's Link monsters, which can be your powerful boss monsters or play extenders. So yeah, it's a very nice card indeed, and a very welcome addition to Code Talkers. Alright, our last main Code Talker is Shooting Code Talker. And this one requires 2 plus Cybers monsters, 2300 attacks, points up, down, and left. And at the start of the battle phase, you can activate this effect. This battle phase, this card can make attacks on your opponent's monsters up to the number of monsters this card currently points to plus 1. But this turn, when it attacks your opponent's only monster, this card loses 400 attack during that damage calculation only. At the end of the battle phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters by this card destroyed by battle this turn. Okay, so let's get the obvious out of the way. The most amount of attacks this card will be able to make is only 3. So that also translates you'll be only drawing 3 cards max due to this thing's effect. And the only other WTF moment I have with this thing is, why the hell does it have to lose 400 attack if it attacks the opponent's only monster? So yeah, you're most probably gonna be leaving that monster for another monster you have, so which won't lose 400 attack upon attacking. So yeah, it's a bit of a gimmicky choice, but if you feel like you can run this thing due to, well, you basically run this due to the spell card splash ability, and yeah, you can get some. Drawing 3 cards can be nice, so yeah, if you're lucky, go for it. And their last monster, well, their last monster is general, is Extended Decode Talker, the evolution to the Decode Talker. So yeah, has the exact same stats, arrows, and everything as Decode Talker, and this card's name becomes Decode Talker while on the field. Gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. During your battle phase, if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. So yeah, this basically is a more battle-oriented Decode Talker, and it really shows. Basically, the way you're going to pull this effect off is by destroying the monster this card points to by battle and then going in for another attack. Sadly, the effect does not stack if you happen to destroy your own monsters or like send them to the graveyard in order to activate some quick play spells you might benefit from during the battle phase. So yeah, this is also, again, you run it as much as you run the original Decode Talker. Yeah, you're basically if you basically run two of the original Decode Talkers and one of these, in my opinion. So yeah. Alright, now going on to the spell and trap lineup. First up we have Signet Codec. It's a continuous spell that says, if a Code Talker monster is special summoned from the extra deck to your field except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, add one Cybers monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except Cybers monster, even if this card leaves the field. You cannot add other monsters with that same attribute to your hand by the effect of Signet Codec this turn. And you can only activate the effect of Signet Codec once per turn. This card is an absolute masterpiece and shouldn't be ran at any less than 3 every time, because this is your prime reason why you will want to run at least one of each of the Code Talkers, because it can literally fetch any Cybers monster, and Cybers do have very nice monsters to spare of each attribute. Lady Debugger, or well, what are some other cards? Flame Buffalo is also a decent choice. Code Exporter, well, basically the archetypal cards as well. So yeah, very nice card indeed, and it, like I said, it shouldn't be ran at any less than 3, because this is the best kind of consistency for an archetype focused around link spamming, and can very easily enable some very nasty extra links in this archetype. So yeah. Next up we have their other continuous spell, that being Signet Optimization. If your Code Talker monster battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. During your main phase, you can immediately after this card resolves normal summon one Cyberse monster. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except Cyberse monster, even if this card leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Signet optimization once per turn. It shuts down back row when attacking, and you get an additional normal summon. You run 3 of these for a reason. So yeah, basically everything that has been good about the Signet codec in terms of expanding your playstyle, this is actually a very nice kickstarter to your plays, along with having a decent ignoring back row for battles phase when you get to that. So yeah, and the last spell card is Decode Destruction. Target one Decode Talker you control. Apply the following effects this turn depending on the number of monster it currently points to. 1 or more. That monster gains 500 attack for each monster it currently points to. 2 or more. Monsters destroyed by battle with that monster are banished after damage calculation. And 3, after damage calculation, if that monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, destroy all cards your opponent controls. You can only activate 1 Decode Destruction once per turn. So basically, the first effect actually gives the original Decode Talker, gives them a 3000 attack battle boost right off the bats if he is linked with 3 monsters. The second effect is just yes please, because banishing the opponent's monster is basically a very powerful form of removal since it disables floating effects. And the third one is just... and it's a nuke effect. What else do I have to say about this? The activation can be a bit... well, it is easy, but setting it up can be a bit of a hassle. So yeah, it basically gives the extended Decode Talker, gives him the first effect of the original Decode Talker. So yeah, it basically it also turns extended Decode Talker into a gives him a 3000 attack point boost. So it's fine like that. I thought for a second that it also actually gives extended Decode Talker the protection effect of the original Decode Talker for some reason. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, this is a cool card, but setting it up for the maximum output it can offer can be a bit of a hindrance, and it can be a bit annoying. And you usually don't focus on turboing out the Decode Talker as fast as possible, since you're most likely going to be using monsters for extra links. So yeah, 1 or 2 of these should be fine. Alright, now I'm moving on to the trap cards. First up we have Recoded Alive. Target 1 Link 3 Cyberse monster, Link monster you control or is in your graveyard. Banish it. And if you do, special summon 1 Code Talker monster from your extra deck. If you control no monsters in the extra monster zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 of your banished Code Talker monsters, special summon it. Yeah, this actually offers a very nice recovery. Basically, if your opponent got rid of a very important or very powerful Code Talker, you can basically activate this to special summon a Code Talker which you might not need at the moment, and upon banishing this thing from the graveyard you can resummon the banished Code Talker as a spicy comeback option. So yeah, I usually see people run 1 max of these, and yeah, you usually don't require any more than that, but yeah, 2 of them is perfectly fine as well, and 3 can be a bit bricky. So yeah, next up we have the other trap card, that being Limit Code. If you have any Cyberse Link monsters in your graveyard, place 1 counter on this card for each of those monsters. And if you do, special summon 1 Code Talker monster from your extra deck and equip it with this card. When this card leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster. Once per turn during your end phase, remove 1 counter from this card. If you cannot destroy it, you can only activate 1 limit code per turn. I am actually quite confused with the existence of this thing. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, you can special summon a Code Talker for absolutely free, but you're most likely gonna be using that Code Talker for a link play because of this card's asinine restrictions. So yeah, and not to mention that this thing can also be used once per duel, so that's another very nice bite in the ass from Konami. So again, you run one by default because it's a once per duel kind of effect, and it's even a question if you run any due to the existence of Recoded Alive, which pretty much does the same thing but better. Yeah, waste of a cool design in my opinion. Next up we have their final trap card, that being the counter trap Signet Conflict. When a spell or trap or monster effect is activated while you control a Code Talker monster, negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. And if you do, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of the cards with the same original name as that card that was banished until the end of the next turn. And you can only activate one Signet Conflict once per turn. So this is an archetypal Omni Negate, and is better than some other Omni Negates due to it banishing the card that actually negated, and not to mention that it shuts down that card for the rest of the turn, which is a very huge plus. And it's all completely understandable why you can only activate one of these per turn, so yeah, running any less than 3 of these is not insightful whatsoever. And just like that, we've arrived to the grading scale. Alright, so in terms of consistency, they actually have quite a lot of it. Lady Debugger helps out from being generic cyber support. Their archetypal support have very nice splashability in terms of how they interact with the archetype upon being used as the link material. Signet Codec is absolutely ridiculous, and I think this archetype doesn't deserve any less than 3 out of 3. In terms of power, the damage, all of the monsters don't usually extend over 2300 attack. The only exceptions being Decode Talker, Extended Decode Talker, and Power Code Talker, of which the latter is most frequently used for beatdown, and most likely as in the Cowboy for Game kind of beatdown. So yeah. It's a bit too infrequent for me to give it a 3 out of 3, so 2 out of 3 will do perfectly. In terms of comeback ability, the only relevant options here are Recoded Alive and Limit Code if you choose to run it, and some other code talkers such as Transcode Talker can kick you back into relevance. Talkback Cleanser is also a decent option there as well. Basically anything that can revive stuff from the graveyard and continue on from there is good. So it's not too amazing, but still better than nothing, so I'll give him a 2 out of 3 as well. Protection is actually barely there. The only form of protection I've seen is in the original Code Talker, and that's it. I mean, Decode Talker has a non-once per turn Omni Negate effect. Well, it's not really a... well, it's a targeting protection, so yeah, that's the only form of protection the archetype has. Code Talker, Decode Talker, and Code Talker is most likely gonna be used as a link material, and Decode Talker isn't really summoned all that often due to like the archetype is being focused on extra link spamming, and Decode Talker's arrows aren't the most valuable ones in that point. So yeah, 1 out of 3 I actually have to give him that grade. And as for the versatility, well, Signet Codec is a very nice card for all Cybers decks. Transcode Talker is basically a 3-off staple in any Cybers deck. Power Code Talker is a generic beat stick and especially a very valued one in Salamangrates. Code Talker is ran in basically any deck focused on extra link spamming. The main deck monster lineup is very welcome in the deck, although it's limited to its own archetype with their effects. So yeah, it's a bit flimsy, but I still want to be generous and give them a 3 out of 3 in terms of versatility. And in terms of Code Talker as well, it's actually a very coolly managed archetype. It's now a question if whether we'll get the Access Code Talker, their Link 4 monster that appeared in the final episodes of Reigns. So yeah, we'll only have to wait and see, just like with Memory again. So yeah, from the previous video. Anyway, that is it for today's archetype analysis. Next up, we're going back to the we're going to wrestle up a little bit, as we'll be taking a look at the Goki archetype next time we meet on archetype analysis. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. See you all. Have a good day and peace.